The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Chapter 1. Greensburg is a village near the Hudson River. 2 miles from the village there is a little valley. The valley is called Sleepy Hollow. Sleepy Hollow is one of the quietest places in the world. A little river runs through it with a gentle sound which might send one to sleep. The people of Greensburg believed that there was a ghost in Sleepy Hollow. It was the ghost of a headless man riding a horse, a soldier whose head had been shot off in a battle in Sleepy Hollow. His body was buried just outside the church in the churchyard. But every night he rode out to Sleepy Hollow along all the roads, looking for his head, and before daylight he rode back to the church where his body was buried. That was the story. About the year 1800, a man named Ichabod Crane had a school near Sleepy Hollow. He had long arms, long legs, and very big feet. His head was small, with very big ears and a long nose, and he looked as if he never had enough to eat. On half days, he walked home with some of the smaller boys, those who had pretty older sisters or whose mothers were good cooks. All the people in that place were farmers. Ichabod got very little money from the school, but it was usual for a countryman teacher to stay at the houses of the farmers whose children came to the school. Ichabod went round them, staying a week with each, carrying everything that he owned in a red cloth. Ichabod also taught singing, and he was the leader of the singers in the church. The women thought that he was a very wise man. He had read a few books. He had a big book written by a man called Mather, a book about ghosts. Ichabod believed all the stories in this book. As he walked back in the evening to the farmhouse in which he was staying, every strange sound filled him with fear, and he sang church music to keep himself safe from ghosts. Katrina Van Tassel was one of those who came to his singing lessons. She was the daughter of a rich farmer named Baltus Van Tassel. She was 18 years old and very pretty. Ichabod looked at her with loving eyes, and he looked at her father's big house, his rich fields, his fine animals, and his good food. How can I win Katrina to be my wife? That was what he thought as he looked at her, and the house and the farm. Ah, how! Ichabod was not the only man, and Katrina liked to play. Sometimes she was nice to one man, and he thought he might be winning, and then she seemed to like another. Among the men there was one named Brom. Brom was very big and strong. He was a very good rider, and he knew a great deal about horses. Everyone liked him. If there was any fight or anything that would make him laugh, he was always there. Brum also wanted to win Katrina. His horse was often seen outside Van Tassel's house. As singing teacher, Ichabod could go to the farm as often as he liked. He sat with Katrina under the big tree beside the river, or walked with her in the moonlight. He seemed to be winning, and the Brom's horse was seen less often outside the house. Brom would have liked to fight Ichabod for the lady, as men did long ago and in the story books, but Ichabod was a quiet man, and he was careful not to quarrel with Brom or let him have any reasons for fighting him. Brom tried to make Ichabod angry by going into the school at night and throwing the chairs and tables and other things about. He taught his dog to make strange noises and said to Katrina, "My dog has been getting singing lessons from Ichabod." But it was no use. Ichabod would not fight. Brum thought, "I must find some other way." Chapter 2. One day a note came to the school asking Ichabod to come to a meal at Van Tassel's house. Ichabod finished the school work very quickly and sent the boys away. He was staying at Hans Van Ripper's farm. He went back to the farm, put on his best clothes, and said to Van Ripper, "May I use your horse?" Van Ripper was a great horseman, and he loved riding as fast as he could. Many years before, a horse called Gunpowder had been his best horse. But Gunpowder was now very old and only did work on the farm. He had only one eye, but in that one eye you could see the fire which had made him. Van Ripper's best loved horse long ago. Van Ripper said, "Take Gunpowder. He was a very good horse once, very fast and rather dangerous, but he's very quiet now." So Ichabod rode on Gunpowder to Van Tassel's house. All the farmers of the country were there with their wives and sons and daughters. Brom was there too. He had come on his best horse, a big black horse, a dangerous animal which only Brom could ride. They all sat down to a big meal. The table was loaded with good food. Ichabod looked at all the fine food. As he ate and drank more and more, he thought, "Ah, one day all this will be mine, and I'll laugh at Van Ripper with his little farm and his broken down house, and I won't ask the poor school teacher to come and have a meal among my rich friends." After the meal, they went into the big hall and danced. Ichabod thought that he was a very good dancer. He danced with Katrina and gave her loving looks as he did so. Brom sat angrily alone near the door. He couldn't dance. When the dance ended, everyone went and sat outside. They were telling stories about old times and ghosts. The best stories were about the headless horseman. Several people said that they had heard him. Some said that he put his horse in the churchyard every night. A man called Brower said that he once met the horseman. The horseman made him get up behind him and rode until he came to the bridge near the church, and there he threw Brower into the water. Brom laughed. He said, "I can tell a better story. One night I was coming back near Sleepy Hollow, and the horseman came up behind me. I said, 'Let's see which horse can go faster, yours or mine.' I should have won because my horse was much faster than his. But just as we came to the bridge near the church, there was a noise like thunder, and he had gone." Ichabod heard these stories, and he himself told some stories from Mather's book. The farmers and their wives and daughters began to go away, but Ichabod stayed on. He wanted to talk to Katrina. "This is the time," he thought, "to ask her to marry me." I don't know what happened at that meeting between Ichabod and Katrina, but Ichabod came away looking very sad. He got onto Van Ripper's horse and started to ride home to Van Ripper's farm. As he rode, he thought about all the ghost stories that he had been hearing. Chapter 3. The night became darker and darker. Near Sleepy Hollow he heard a strange, deep sound. Was it made by the wind, or was it the voice of a ghost? He rode quickly on. He came to a stream. Here he had to ride Gunpowder through the water. On the other side of the stream there were some big trees. They made a dark shadow over the water. The soldier was shot just there. This was the place where his ghost was seen, and no one liked to come here after that. Ichabod was afraid. He hit his horse to make it go across the stream more quickly, but it turned away to the side. Ichabod was angry. He hit the horse again and again. It moved on, but then it stopped suddenly, and Ichabod nearly went over its head. Then Ichabod heard a sound, and in the dark shadow of the trees on the other side of the stream, he saw something big. It did not move. It seemed to be waiting to jump out on him. What must I do? Ichabod asked himself. It was too late to turn back, and if he did turn back, the thing would follow him and come faster than he could ride. "Who are you?" he said. There was no answer. "What are you?" Still no answer. He shut his eyes and said a prayer. The thing moved. It jumped out into the road. Ichabod opened his eyes. The night was very dark, but he could just see a thing that looked like a horseman on a big black horse. Ichabod rode on, keeping to one side of the road, the side Gunpowder's one good eye was on, so Gunpowder would not be able to see the horseman. He thought of Brom's story about the headless horseman, how Brom rode fast and left the horseman behind. He made Gunpowder go faster, but the horseman came on faster too, and stayed at his side. Ichabod tried to sing, but no voice came from his dried mouth. Then Ichabod came to some rising ground, and he saw the horseman against the sky. He was headless. He was carrying his head in front of him on the saddle. Ichabod hit Gunpowder again and again and again. Gunpowder jumped and ran faster. The life and fire that it had known long ago came back, faster and faster. The road to Van Ripper's farm went to the left, but Gunpowder went down to the road to the right, the road which led downhill to the bridge, where the headless horseman threw Brower into the water, then to the church, where the headless horseman was buried. Ichabod and Gunpowder went down the hill. The horseman was not beside him now, and Ichabod thought, perhaps I have left him behind and have got away safely as Brum did. But just as Ichabod was halfway down the hill, something broke, and the saddle turned to run under him. Ichabod put his arms round the horse's head. The saddle fell to the ground, and he heard the other horse go over it. Oh, he thought, that was Van Ripper's best saddle. He will be so angry. Ichabod stayed on Gunpowder's back. The bridge was now quite near. He could see white walls of the church through the trees. Brom had said that the horseman left him here. He remembered Brom's word. There was a noise like thunder, and he had gone. Perhaps, thought Ichabod, that will happen here at the bridge, and I will be saved. He heard the horseman close behind him. He reached the bridge. He saw on the bridge. He reached the other side. Then he looked back to see if the horseman was still there. He was still there. He was standing up across his saddle, and he had some big thing in his hands. He was throwing it. It's his head, cried Ichabod. It hit Ichabod, and he fell to the ground, and Gunpowder ran on, leaving him there. The next morning Gunpowder was found without his saddle at Van Ripper's farm. The boys waited for Ichabod at school. They waited all the morning. No Ichabod. School time ended, and Ichabod did not come back to Van Ripper's house. Where is Ichabod Crane? Asked Van Ripper. And where is my saddle? He set out with all his men to find them. They followed the horse's footmarks in the ground. In the road to the church they found the saddle, dirty and broken. They came to the bridge and the river. On the other side of the bridge they found Ichabod's hat, and close to it a broken pumpkin. But they did not find a body. It's quite clear, they said, he has been carried off by the headless horseman. Some years later, an old farmer came back from New York. I saw Ichabod Crane, he said. He went away because Katrina would not marry him, and because he was afraid of Van Ripper's anger about his saddle, and because of the headless horseman. What happened to him after he left there? Asked Katrina. Now married de Brom. He started a school, he learned law and was elected to Congress. He is still a congressman. Why was a pumpkin found there? Asked Katrina. How did that get there? Brom laughed.